Where have you guys been? It's been months. Okay, well, that's mostly on me. But I've got big news. Stick around. We'll talk. Welcome back, everybody, to finally another episode of Chemo and Cocktails, the only show on the internet about cancer and classic tiki drinks. I am your host, Wayne, and you may know me from other such extended absences as the great mononucleosis outbreak of St. Elmo in 1983. That was not pretty. It has been weeks. It's been beyond weeks. It's been months since the last video, sometime back in, I guess, early December. And when I say it's been months, it has been some very interesting months. Let's break that down. In fact, you're going to see me referring to my notes here because I can't even remember everything that happened. I've had to keep notes as we go. So I will be going through this, and we're going to break it up into chapters. So let's get started with week number 1. Okay, so shortly after the last video, I had my final chemo infusion. That was on December 14th, I believe. I was hoping to get in and out that day. It was the last one. I wanted to make it quick, get through there as quickly as I could. But of course, it couldn't be that easy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. It turns out that I had missed a phone call from the nurse practitioner the night before saying that she would be out sick and that another NP would be taking over. When I tried to check in for my infusion, they, number one, kept me waiting for over an hour. Number two, only after that hour, told me that I was supposed to go meet with the NP at that time, which would have been right in the middle of my infusion had they started me later. So I was late. So then they refused to get me back and get me started in the infusion until I went to see the NP. I went to see there, I waited for almost another hour, finally met with her, and then she asked why I was even there because she was planning to come see me at the infusion clinic anyway. So that was crazy. Anyway, the rest of the day was pretty routine. The prednisone finally kicked in, I found out that day, and I learned that I had put on 10 pounds in the previous 3 weeks since my third infusion. So it was official. I was finally fat cancer guy. The final drug in my infusion that day, the cyclophosphamide, which is always the final one in RCHOP, it was especially rough, again, burning my nose and sinuses and really causing tons of eye watering and leaving this horrible taste in my mouth. Got through it, and then there was the big moment. And the big moment, for those of you who know anything about cancer treatment, is ringing the bell. So ringing the bell is something you do. It's a tradition where you ring it as a sign of victory that you've finished your chemotherapy treatments. So I did that. I had this great group of people gathered around me. You know what? Let's just look at it. I have some video. Ringing out. Ring this bell 3 times as well, where you're told to clearly say, my treatment's done, this course is run, and I am on my way. 3 times?
Yeah.
So that was a big moment, right? But I still knew that I had days of the effects of chemo ahead of me. The rest of the week, I just kind of powered through the final few days of work that I had before I started a long holiday break. But the side effects were really piling up. We've talked about this before. Chemo is cumulative. The side effects that time, it was like a greatest hits compilation of all the side effects that I'd had in the previous cycles. From cycle number 1, we had coffee tastes bad, and that's not okay, combined with the hit intestinal confusion. From cycle 2, it was the surprise hit of the year, hypersensitivity to smell. From cycle 3, phantom tastes and random gagging. And then rounding it out was a new single, Do I Smell That, or Is It All in My Head? It was all piling up. It was not fun, and then I on top of all of it, I started experiencing a bout of menopause and having hot flashes. Week 2. All right, so for week 2, I was off work. I used that opportunity to really rest because the side effects just wouldn't let up. I was sometimes taking multiple naps per day, and I'm choosing to blame that on the chemo, not the chronic weight that I'd been putting on, or the fact that I was just being a lazy bum. The cyclophosphamide taste kept coming back over and over again throughout the week. The only things that would suppress it, the only thing I could eat that would really block out that taste and that smell were salty, greasy foods. A lot of potato chips, bags and bags of Ruffles. But fat cancer guy gets what fat cancer guy wants, right? So as a early Christmas gift, late anniversary gift to ourselves, Kelly and I had decided to buy ourselves some new appliances. Our microwave had started cooking itself from the inside, so we weren't even using it anymore. We had a countertop one that was taking up precious countertop space in the kitchen. The oven was inconsistent at best, like you adjust the temperatures and it wouldn't really do anything. It just sort of assumed that whatever temperature you wanted, it was already at that temperature. So 300, 400, they're just numbers, right? And the fridge was just ugly. It wasn't broken. We just wanted a better looking one. If we're going to get a pretty oven and built-in microwave, then let's get a pretty fridge to go with it. So we ordered all those replacements for those 3 appliances. We ordered them sometime in November. The one appliance we knew that we would not have to replace in this situation was our dishwasher, because we replaced the dishwasher as soon as we moved into the house a few years ago. Well, guess what died? Guess what died the week of Christmas? That's right, the dishwasher. Didn't even have the new appliances yet because of supply chain issues, and now another one needed replacing. So I got on the Googler and I found out some potential solutions for trying to fix it myself, because I am that guy. I was able to reset it and get it working again, sort of, but there was this weird grinding noise, and the dishes weren't really getting clean so much as they were just getting wet. But we had a dish rinser, so that's something, right? And then I thought maybe I was close to actually fixing it. Then I walked outside as it was running one time and just saw water dripping from our kitchen into the driveway. So it was back to hand washing. And we did a lot of hand washing. The day after Christmas, you had all those dishes that you're dealing with from your big meal or whatever. I'm in there, I'm doing just that. I'm hand washing the dishes, and I kid you not, the faucet fell apart in my hand. So I spent that whole day. Okay, wow, that's going to take a little bit longer than maybe we counted on. So while I'm droning on in the other room about everything that's been going on for the past 3 months, let's go ahead and make the cocktail. Not going to tell you what it is yet. Let's just get started with it, and then we'll check back in to see how I'm doing. Okay, so first up, we're going to need the juice of 1 lime. I have a nicely pre-cut lime here. We're going to want to squeeze that, but that's not a lime juicer. That's a lemon juicer. That's a lime juicer. Don't judge me. All right, so let's get some lime juice going. Oh, there we go. Getting excited already. And we're gonna hold on to these lime shells, and anybody who's a hardcore Tiki fan knows exactly why I wanna keep half of this lime shell. There we go. All right. Next up, we are going to need 2 ounces of Denizen Merchant's Reserve. Now I'm really showing my hand for all the hardcore Tiki fans. Oh my gosh. All right, so this is a fantastic rum. This is a blend of a plumber-style Jamaican rum and Rum Grande Arome de la Martinique. So it is a rum from Martinique that is in the blend, but it is not a rum agricole, and there's a reason for that. But we'll talk about that in just a bit. Let's go back to the office and see if I'm done yet. Surprised me too, but it was at that point that they made me their chief. Week 3. All right, so we scheduled a home warranty repair of the dishwasher. We did discover that it was covered by our home warranty, so great, we don't have to pay for the repair, right? But it wasn't scheduled until January 5th, so the hand washing would have to continue for at least another week, or week and a half. The kids took a trip with our church right around New Year to the beach, and meanwhile I slept a lot. I pretty much did that week after Christmas what I had done the week before Christmas, and that's lie around, eat, and watch bowl games, and eat, and nap, and eat. Midway through that week, shortly after replacing the kitchen faucet, but long before the dishwasher would be fixed, our vacuum cleaner died. So to recap, we had ordered a refrigerator, an oven, a microwave, and yet our dishwasher was dead, awaiting a repair. I had replaced the kitchen faucet, and now we had a dead vacuum cleaner on top of the list. So guess what we bought? A new vacuum. Merry Christmas to us, I guess. I mustered enough energy on New Year's Eve to spend part of the day replacing toilet seats, which is almost as good as being in Times Square. I mean, they both smell like urine at times, right? But we got our new microwave finally. while the kids were gone, and we would take all the victories we could get at that point. I immediately set out trying to find someone to take the old countertop microwave that we'd been using for the last 2 years, because we just didn't want it taking up space in the house. So I was prepared to give that away, but then things changed. The kids came back on New Year's Day from their trip to the beach. Knowing that COVID was running rampant around this time, I chose to isolate myself from them for a few days, because really up until, well, actually next week still, I'm still immunocompromised until mid-March. So I isolated myself from them for a couple of days just to be safe. Turns out it was a good choice. Week 4. The kids had COVID. That's right. Came back from the beach trip with COVID. They started showing symptoms the day after they got back. Kelly took them to the doctor a day later. Coop had just COVID, but he had just recovered from the flu, and I had mentioned that, I believe, a few weeks earlier. Savannah tested positive for both COVID and the flu, so she had the dreaded Flurona before anybody even heard of what Flurona was. On top of that, she also developed a secondary sinus infection. So she had the trifecta. So with them being sick, me being immunocompromised, the obvious choice was they had to isolate in their rooms on the second floor. I isolated in the basement. Kelly operated the neutral zone and smuggled food to both ends. It was interesting. I stayed isolated by myself in this basement for the next 18 days. It was a good thing I never got rid of that microwave, because that was the only way I had to prepare my own meals. Fortunately, neither Kelly nor I got COVID. Cooper's fever lingered for more than a week. His fever got as high as 104 at times, and his oxygen levels were dangerously low a few times, and we almost had to take him to the hospital. Savannah's symptoms were never that severe. She never had the high fevers, but her symptoms varied from vomiting to fatigue to sinus problems. The secondary sinus infection being a part of that. After almost 3 weeks, they were finally well enough that we could all get back together. But I had some new issues of my own in that time. Week 5. So while isolated in the basement, I started noticing some nagging tooth pain. Now, you may not know this, but when you're going through chemotherapy, you're not supposed to have any dental work done, because dental work can introduce germs directly into your bloodstream that can really compromise your health, especially when you're already immunocompromised. So dental work was out of the question. I knew I had a tooth that had the filling in it, an old filling, probably 30 plus years old, was starting to wear down, and I was getting a little bit of sensitivity to hot and cold or anything really hard or crunchy on that particular tooth, but I chose to ignore it because I wanted to get treatment started as soon as possible. You know, I mean, we've talked about this. Stage 1, early stage 2, 90+% chance of survivability. Stage 3 or stage 4, it's coin flip. I didn't want my life to be a coin flip, so I wanted to start treatment immediately. Well, as luck would have it, the tooth broke shortly after I started treatment. Held off any pain for a while, but the filling kept wearing down, and so sometime right around Christmas and right after, the tooth pain started coming in a little bit. It was gradual, but by week 5 of this story here, it was getting pretty severe. Tylenol was doing nothing for it. I tried hydrocodone with acetaminophen. That helped me sleep for a few nights, especially when I combined it with some oral analgesics. Then I finally realized it was safe for me to use ibuprofen again, and that did a much better job of managing the pain. But eventually I was still having breakthrough pain. I was having a hard time sleeping. So I reached out to my care team at UAB, my cancer care team, and I got clearance to go to the dentist. But I couldn't get in until the next week. That would be week 6. So I got to the dentist. Sure enough, the broken tooth was infected. He hooked me up with some antibiotics, prescription strength ibuprofen, and a referral to an endodontist to get a root canal. I couldn't decide what kind of root canal I wanted to have. I was leaning more Panama Canal than Suez Canal. I asked for a birth canal. Turns out I'm not qualified for those. Nobody told me. I don't think it was covered by my insurance anyway. Around this time, we also got our new fridge, and we got rid of our old one at that point. When I went to move our zero-turn mower out of the garage over to the other side of the garage to temporarily make room for the old fridge until we could sell it, the mower wouldn't start. Of course. Anyway, 2 days later, my canal was sufficiently rooted. No birth canals were created nor found in the process. So next up, we are going to need 1/2 ounce of orange curacao. I really like this particular curacao. This is Pierre Ferrand. It's a very dry curacao and it knocks a lot of the sweetness out of this particular cocktail. There we go. There are only 2 more ingredients. This one's a simple one, guys, and it's still my favorite. All right, we're gonna want a 1/4 ounce of orgeat, which, for those of you who don't know, is an almond syrup. This one is by Small Hands Foods, or Small Hand Foods, not Small Hands. That would refer to carnival folk. All right, Small Hand Foods, they're very tasty orgeat. I'm not all that precise on this. I just sort of halfway fill up my 1/2 ounce jigger. And then finally, we are going to want a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. Tiki fans, get in the comments. Tell me your favorite recipe for this particular drink. And before we reveal what exactly this drink is to the newbies who've never made one before, let's check one more time back at the office. I said to him, Your Holiness, you got to use the hot water to open up your pores, but then you want to rinse the blade in cold water because it hardens the steel, makes for a cleaner shave. Week 7. Week 7 was a big week. On Tuesday, I was supposed to spend half my day at the cancer center getting blood work, getting my port flushed. And if you haven't had your port flushed recently, make sure you do that. And an end of treatment PET scan. I woke that morning to a call from the PET scan clinic telling me that my insurance had declined to cover the scan. Now think about this. They have just spent tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars paying for my chemotherapy over the previous 3 months. Now they're denying the one test that would tell them whether the chemo had been successful or not. Welcome to American healthcare. I immediately messaged my care team at UAB to bring them up to speed on the news. They got on the phone with the insurance company. An hour later, I still had no answers. Keep in mind, I was fasting all day to get ready for the scan. I didn't break the fast because I was determined to get that scan that day. Mere minutes before I was supposed to leave, I still didn't have approval. But finally, as I'm walking out the door, I got word that the scan was approved. My doctor had a peer-to-peer call with a doctor at the insurance company who looked at the records and then approved the scan without my doctor even having to say anything. I don't understand the point of that, and neither did my physician, honestly. Anyway, I spent a good 5 hours out that day getting everything done, getting the scan, which, by the way, was a breeze when you don't have a migraine and don't end up horking in a trash can outside of Starbucks when you're done. Got the lab work, and then I had a meeting with my oncologist. My oncologist had news. What did he say? We'll get to that in a minute. The next day, however, I spent another few hours dealing with health issues because I had to go have a temporary crown placed on the broken and root canaled tooth. Is it root canaled? Canal rooted. Rooted canal? Rooted canaled. Anyway, week 8. All right, so over the last few weeks, I've been trying to get stronger. I learned at the appointment where I had the PET scan and the lab work done and met with my oncologist that I had gained another 13 pounds since my last infusion. So yeah, over a 6-week period, I gained 23 pounds. Now remember, the first half of my chemotherapy I maintained. But then suddenly I'm much bigger. And let me tell you, I've been wearing, I'm working from home, hadn't been on any shoots or anything. And the only place I'd gone was to medical appointments. So I'm wearing sweatpants all the time. And let me tell you, sweatpants will lie to you. They will not tell you the truth about what's going on. Jeans, however, speak the hard truth. So I've had to go back to jeans to remind myself that being fat cancer guy is no longer acceptable. Anyway, so I've been kind of working on doing some cardio on the stationary bike a few nights a week whenever I can. But when I started in week 8 helping Kelly with taking down Christmas trees and other decorations, taking things up to the attic, it all proved to be way too much for me. I quickly got winded. I was completely exhausted, not for the rest of that night, but for a couple of days afterwards. Now, my labs had shown some anemia, which is a result of the chemo, so all of this is to be expected. So that weakness, it lingered for several nights and really for several weeks after that. I had low hematocrit levels, low hemoglobin, low red blood cell count, low total lymphocyte counts. All of it's going to rebound. In fact, it's probably rebounded by now, but I'm frustrated that it's taking so long, honestly. So, you know, here we are. I had written this script, these notes, to do like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I never got around to doing this video. And there's been a lot of reasons for that. But the biggest one is a lot of nights I just haven't felt like it. I have been, you know, back at work pretty hard. My work schedule is much busier now than it was in the fall. So, you know, by the time I get to the end of a workday, I'm pretty exhausted. Still, I've done a few workouts since then, but not a lot. But I'm slowly getting my strength back. So I'm just easing into it, doing things like, you know, just work around the yard, cleaning the pool, whatever it is. Anything that just gets me up on my feet and moving around that pushes me. And so I try to do a little bit more each day, each week, and it's getting there, but it's still a bit of a challenge. But anyway, that's that. That's the recap. That's why this video hasn't happened. And I've also been working a lot, so there's been a lot of working at night, so I couldn't shoot on those nights either. But let's talk about the news. The big news is, as of my PET scan in late January, I am officially 100% cancer-free. Thank you. Thank you. No more chemo, move over lymphoma. So what's next? So what's next is what we've been talking about. I'm trying to rebuild my strength and my endurance while I lose all these extra pounds. I think I've already taken some of these pounds off, maybe 10 or so. I'm working on it. I'm cutting back on all the bad eating. I'm eating much better, trying to get some exercise. I actually have a week-long shoot next week and another week-long shoot coming up soon after that. So all of these things are going to test me, get me ready for vacation in April. I will have a follow-up appointment with my oncologist in July, then another PET scan after that. If everything looks good at that point, the port will come out, but I have actually sent a message to my physician to see about removing the port early because honestly, I'm feeling optimistic. I don't think I'm going to need it again anytime soon, hopefully never again. And it is a little bit of a nuisance. It's still a little sensitive to the touch. It occasionally will just hurt out of nowhere. And, you know, scheduling every 6 weeks to have a port flush in the middle of my work week when I often go out of town, and when I go out of town, I'm often out of town for a week or two at a time. It doesn't mess up my schedule by a few hours like it would normal people who work an office job. It messes my schedule up by weeks. So it would just be much easier if I could go ahead and get the thing out. But I don't know that the reality of all this has hit me yet. Oh, let's talk about the other elephant in the room. And I don't mean me, I'm talking about my hair. So obviously you can see facial hair has come back. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. And it's filling in. It's funny, it's actually growing in places where it didn't grow before. And the hair on my head is coming back, but it's still a little patchy. I'll let it grow to about this point. And then once a week, I just shave it off. And honestly, I think I'm just going to stay bald. I like it. I think it's a good look. And it's a constant reminder of the second chance that I've been given. And I don't ever want to forget that. I don't want to forget what I've been through and the amazing opportunity that I have to maybe do things a little better, maybe appreciate life a little bit more. And if, you know, having a bald head is the thing that gets me there, then that's worth it. But you know what else would be great? To remind me of the second chance I've been given, I think we need a little celebration. And I think that celebration should take the form of a cocktail. See you at the bar. Finally, we're going to need to add about 8 ounces of crushed ice. Right in there is fine. All right. So now the big question, what is this drink? Well, I've been saving this one since we started this show because it is my favorite Tiki cocktail, and it is the 1944 Trader Vic's Mai Tai. All right, let's add a little more ice to this guy, bring that level up. That's all I got. All right, then you float half a lime shell on there on top, and usually you got to put a sprig of mint in there, but all my mint is bad. I have mint issues, you guys, but a lot of that is because I bought the mint, several weeks ago to do this episode. We could go more into the history of the Denizen Merchants Reserve and why it was created specifically for the Mai Tai. But you know what? I think we're just going to save all of that for another episode because I could always drink another Mai Tai. But this one is particularly sweet because I have not had a cocktail in more than 3 months. I just got to the point where I just didn't feel like I could drink any alcohol. I was just feeling too rotten to do it, and I didn't want to ruin the cocktail experience by being sick at the time. But this is a big one. This is a toast to being cancer-free. Cheers, and join us again. Oh, man. Never tastes better. See you guys.